As Bitcoin touches 70K again, people say that this is the last time that we'll see Bitcoin's price at these levels. Will Bitcoin reach 100K in 2024? The market and Bitcoin believe that Trump will win the election, but that doesn't really matter. However you vote politically, Bitcoin is the real election that you need to make today. It's the monetary revolution we need to rid governments of corruption. How will you remember the 5th of November? Did you vote for freedom or did you vote for financial slavery? Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Dante Cook. Welcome to Bitcoin Simply, where I help you to understand macro and markets in a simple way. Subscribe to the channel if you already haven't. We produce content here 6 days a week, and today is the day that you will remember, the 5th of November. How will you vote today?
Remember the 5th of November.
In 1605, a group of 13 men sought to overthrow the establishment of King James and a corrupt government by placing gunpowder underneath of where he was supposed to be that day. It's a failed attempt that's now celebrated as the Guy Fawkes Day in the UK. It's a story about people who were censored by their government, who manipulated media and controlled them through coercive tactics. They even made a movie about this, V for Vendetta. Why did they revolt? Why did they feel the need to opt out of the system? Well, it's because their government abandoned their obligation to serve their people and instead serve their own needs. But 1605 isn't too different than it is today. People are frustrated because, for example, they don't have faith that the Supreme Court will make the right decision. And an example today with Meta and Nvidia, who are trying to get legal immunity from accusations of fraud and fraud lawsuits, are trying to use their power in order to not be held accountable by the current financial system. People don't believe that the Supreme Court is going to hold them accountable. This comes just several days after one of NVIDIA's top customers, Supermicro or SMCI, had their auditor resign because of potential fraud and miscalculations with their earnings and the taxes that they've paid. Will the ruling elites and the elite tech companies not be held accountable for their actions and their fraud that's happening in plain sight? People are frustrated because it's not just the big companies. The government itself is not being held accountable for its endless spending and the U.S. debt problem that we have. The U.S. debt is set to potentially reach $37 trillion in debt before the end of the year. People are frustrated because they know they're being lied to and gaslit about a strong economy. People are frustrated because the jobs report showed that there were only 112,000 jobs versus the 113,000 estimate. 46,000 manufacturing jobs were lost. In August and September numbers, those strong job months, were revised down by 112,000 jobs. As you can see in this chart, the jobs numbers miraculously always get revised down after reports of strong jobs numbers come out. And when you remove government jobs, we actually haven't really added jobs at all. In this past month, without the 40,000 government jobs, we would have actually lost 28,000 jobs, 28,000 private sector jobs, jobs for real people and real Americans. The reality is, people are starting to see this corruption and this gaslighting for what it is and in plain sight. I see it, you see it, and millions of other people around the world see it too. And that's why they're voting today. They're voting for Bitcoin. And both V for Vendetta and Guy Fawkes, both of those heroes died in those scenarios. And it's because both of them could be identified. But this monetary insurrection and revolution can't be stopped because its creator, its hero, its leader showed up and then disappeared so that he couldn't be identified by the government.
Beneath this mask, there is more than flesh. Beneath this mask, there is an idea, and ideas are bulletproof.
It's sort of like the statue of Satoshi Nakamoto, which appears and disappears depending on how you look at it. We celebrate the 5th of November because a creator published this in the Genesis block. The Times, January 3rd, 2009, Chancellor on the brink of second bailouts for banks. You see, he demonstrated his revolution in code. We celebrate this day because on this day, November 5th, 4 years ago, Michael Saylor announced that there is no second best.
You go through this thing, okay, what do I want? Well, I don't want big tech because I don't like the underlying exposure to fiat cash flows. I don't want gold because, again, counterparty risk and it's an open system and the gold miners are a problem. Okay, I want crypto. which crypto? There's 6,500 cryptos. Well, write off most of those. Which one's the best crypto asset? Well, Bitcoin's the best crypto asset. Okay. What's the second best? There is no second best. There's no second best crypto asset. There's a crypto asset. It's called Bitcoin, right? Right? There's no second best. Okay. It's not like Google and Facebook. It's not like Apple and Amazon. Yeah, we can debate Apple or Amazon. What's better? They both look like tech monopolies to me.
And since that day, Bitcoin is up 700%. We celebrate the 5th of November because we know that the government debt has risen by $22 trillion since 1996, regardless of whether the Democrats or the Republicans were in office. Your purchasing power will continue to debase regardless of who's elected. We continue to vote for Bitcoin and celebrate the 5th of November because Bitcoin supports its citizens no matter who you are. And Bitcoin continues to reward everyone who votes for Bitcoin after the election, as its purchasing power increases dramatically from these levels. And I anticipate that we're going to see a big rise after this election. Bitcoin was at 1120 in the 2012 election, 726 in the 2016 election, just above 13,000 in the 2020 election, and right at 70K today. I believe that we'll potentially see 100K Bitcoin within this year if we see the price move like it has in past elections. And if Bitcoin hits 100K, there's a lot of people who will experience freedom. But one place in particular, El Salvador, will no longer need to get funds in debt from the IMF.
Our economy can take off in a Bitcoin economy. And it's happening now in El Salvador. I mean, now that country is taking off. Bitcoin hits, 100,000. They'll be able to pay off the IMF, never have to talk to them again. They'll probably be the most attractive country in the world to go live. And they will have, within maybe 30 or 40 years, gone from the poorest, most crime-ridden country to maybe one of the richest, most innovative countries in the world. And just because they embraced Bitcoin.
People are revolting against the system, and they're voting peacefully and in a nonviolent way by taking their fiat and converting it into Bitcoin. But here's the reality. You won't fully get to experience freedom if you don't own real Bitcoin, if you don't take self-custody of your Bitcoin.
Bitcoin is not freedom if you don't self-custody it. So if you're just paying fiat dollars to some company for Bitcoin that's going to live in their system, as we've learned this week and last year and the year before that, and we're going to keep learning this time and time again until everybody learns their lesson, essentially, then you just have an IOU on Bitcoin, and it's, somebody else's Bitcoin. It's not yours. So important to learn how to actually self-custody your Bitcoin.
Alex Gladstein and I are on the same page, and that's why I highly suggest that you go speak with the team at thebitcoinway.com to help you actually take self-custody of your Bitcoin and own the real thing. They will pair you with a one-on-one expert to help you learn and master the skills to securely take custody of your Bitcoin and master cybersecurity, even if you aren't tech savvy. Head over to thebitcoinway.com and schedule a free consultation with their team. Hedge fund manager Jeff Ross believes that now is the time to not be on the sidelines and to get in the game, to be bold and to bet big on Bitcoin.
I just like to encourage people. There are times to be cautious and there are times to be aggressive and to be bold. And I believe, and I could be wrong, but I believe that right now is a time to be aggressive and to be bold. This is where you make money because you make hay while the sun shines, and the sun is starting to shine now.
Many people will continue to be on the sidelines because they aren't taking a long enough view. In 10 or 20 years, Bitcoin will be the world reserve currency and it will be a medium of exchange.
For Bitcoiners who have put in the time like we have, we view Bitcoin as the least risky asset available. So I think the more you understand Bitcoin, the more you feel comfortable with it, even though it's volatile, and the more Bitcoin you want to own. But for the majority of market participants, they still don't know the difference between Bitcoin and other proof-of-stake cryptocurrencies. They still think of Bitcoin like a small tech stock or something like that. And so, yes, so for the majority of market participants, it gets treated as a risk-on asset. That's why we talk about that. So when we get back into a risk environment, so when liquidity is flowing, when the M2 money supply is increasing, people tend to move further out on that risk curve. And for most people, Bitcoin is way out on that risk curve. And then a little further is, proof of stake crypto nonsense. And that's fine. That's just how the markets work. But eventually the world will understand. And I think probably 10 years, maybe in the 2030s to 2040s somewhere, then people will finally understand what Bitcoin is. And then it will be seen as the ultimate risk off asset. At that point, too, I think it will be not only the worldwide medium of exchange of choice, but it will also be the unit of account for the world, like kind of how treasuries and the US dollar are today. I think by 2040, 2050, in that time period, which feels like a long ways away, but it's not that far on the arc of history, I think by that time, Bitcoin will be seen as the ultimate risk-off asset and unit of account.
People ask me, what do I think will happen to Bitcoin if Kamala is elected or if Donald Trump is elected? I do believe that there will be some short-term corrections if Kamala is voted into office, and it will be some potential price surges if Donald Trump is voted into office. Largely, it doesn't matter. Over the long term, the currency will debase. And if you look at the chart of the purchasing power of the dollar from the Fed, and you look at the value of Bitcoin versus that, one chart is going down into the right and one chart is going up into the right. So today, I voted for Bitcoin. And just like my elections, I hope that my money is fair and free. I'm revolting on this 5th of November from the fiat system. And if you're anything like me, I hope that you take the steps to self-custody your Bitcoin. One of the ways that you can take self-custody of your Bitcoin is to have it in a multi-sig. I'm going to be doing a webinar with Joe Consorti, the head of Thea, and we're going to be going through live how you can set up multi-sig and secure your Bitcoin for yourself and your family, whether that's through inheritance planning or other means with a financial advisor or just people you love. We're going to be doing these things live, and you're not going to want to miss it. Join us at the webinar on November 8th at 12 p.m. Eastern. Sign up for the free webinar at joincolumbus.com/Joe, Joe. This is Dante Cook with Bitcoin Simply. Happy stacking.